Hi guys, this is Mrs. Homer, and today we're going to be looking at polygenic traits. If we break down the name of polygenic, we have poly, which means many, and genic refers to genes. So these traits are traits that are controlled by more than one gene. So far, every type of trait that we have looked at, whether it was multiple alleles, sex linked, codominant, incomplete dominant, every trait was controlled by one gene, of which you got two alleles. And those two alleles work together to determine your genotype, which determined your trait. But with polygenic traits, we have more than one gene. So you get multiple genes, each with their own alleles, which all work together to determine your traits. So eye color is an example of this. So you notice that we have those basic colors, brown, blue, green, gray, but there are so many different shades and differences in eye color. And that's because 16 different genes are believed to control the trait of eye color. Those genes all work together. So you'll get two alleles for the first gene, two alleles for the second gene, two alleles for the third gene, and all of those alleles have to be read together in order to determine the final color of your eye. And so skin color is, of course, another example. Anytime you see this real big range of traits, hair color, eye color, skin color, even hair texture, that's all determined by polygenic traits. And so skin color is thought to be controlled by up to 17 different genes. But most of the times when we give an example, we show that it's limited to 3 separate genes. So you can see here the very lightest skin color would be little a, little b, little c. All 3 of these genes have to work together in order to determine the color of the skin. And the other guy here has big A, big B, big C, big C. And again, those 3 work together to determine the color of the skin. And so, in a way, the more dominant alleles, the darker the skin color. So when you really look at skin color, there's really not a lot of difference. It's just the darker your skin tone, the more dominant alleles that you have in the different genes that add together to control the trait. So typically with polygenic traits, because there's multiple genes that go into controlling our trait, we see this bell curve or this array of colors. So we see from the very light, all different shades to the very dark. And we can actually plot this on a bell curve. So if you're just looking at these genes, if you've got 6 that are recessive, okay, so 2 recessive for the first gene, 2 recessive for the second gene, 2 recessive for the third gene, then you're very, very light. Now, as you get more dominant alleles for each set of genes, your skin color becomes darker until for each set of genes, you have 2 dominant for the first set of genes, 2 dominant for the second, and 2 dominant for the third, which would be the darkest. And so that most people are going to fall in this range of somewhere in between. And then there are going to be some outliers, the fewer on either end. So this is a bell curve. So polygenic traits always present with this large variety of different phenotypes, of different outcomes. So one of the big things that we get confused by are the two titles that are kind of similar. One is multiple alleles, and the other is polygenic traits. So multiple allele is when one gene has multiple choices or multiple alleles to choose from, but you still only get to pick 2. So there's 3 choices that I can choose from, but I only get 2 because I only have one gene that controls that trait. So for blood type, one gene controls it. I get 3 choices, but I only get to pick 2 of those, and that determines my blood type. With polygenic, you have more than one gene. So here I have 3 different genes, and these 3 different genes are going to work together. I get to pick 2 from the first set, 2 from the second set, and 2 from the third set. So now I have 2 alleles for each of these genes for a total of 6 alleles and 3 genes. And that controls one trait, not 3 traits, but just one trait. All 3 of those genes work together to do that one trait. So multiple alleles is very different because you still only have one gene that controls that trait. Polygenic has multiple genes, many genic genes.